Hello everybody, welcome to the table. Today we're going to check out the CRKT Ancestor. So this right here is the Ancestor 5930. And this one right here, new for 2024 from CRKT, has this really nice black and brown G10 scales. Very smooth design. And of course the star of the show here is going to be this blade, which is this really nicely upswept tanto tip. So very cool design in our hands here. This one is actually designed by Daryl Caston. So we can see the name on the blade right there. So he's behind D Rocket Designs, and they do a lot of really nice stuff on the auto market. But I guess this is one of their production pieces with CRKT, so that's pretty cool as well. So let's just go ahead and check out this knife and see what it has to offer. So first off, this is a flipper. So we can see there's a small flipper tab right here on the back side of the blade. There's some jimping on there, so it does make it fairly snappy. I know that wasn't a good example. Fairly snappy to flip. It is a little different than a traditional flipper because of course there's no true flipper tab sticking out of the handle. So that's something you're going to have to kind of get used to. But the jimping does make it nice and easy to actuate the blade. So that does work pretty well. The blade does run on bearings. It's not an assisted opener at all. So we can see it just kind of swings freely. So there we go. So a free swinging blade there. I suppose you could say this is a front flipper too. It's not quite as intuitive as a front flipper design, but it can be done if you try. Main reason why is because you can see there's a run of jimping right here along the spine of the blade. And so when the blade is in the open position, it's right here. And it's really unfortunate they didn't run the jimping all the way to the spine of the blade down here, because if they had, it would have made it a lot easier to front flip. So we can see there's this smooth section near the tip of the blade there. And so that's smooth, which would be great if you wanted to front flip the knife, but they didn't include that in the design. So not really intended, I think, as a front flipping design, more as a traditional finger flicking design, but it does work really well in that regard. So very snappy, very good action. Go ahead and check out the centering right there. Centering looks pretty darn good, so no issues with that. Our pocket clip is just a single position, tip up, right-hand side carry. Not a deep carry one, but it does have this nice little spacer in there. So you can kind of see that. Nice and smooth in and out of pocket because the actual G10 scales are also very smooth. So we can see that lifts up pretty easily. So it's going to carry just fine if you like this style of pocket clip. No lanyard hole, as you can see. Just solid G10 handles on either side. And it's also kind of nice if you look inside the handles. Hard to see, but you can see there is some skeletonized frame in there. So you can see the holes that were drilled out for weight reduction. So despite the size of this knife, it's actually pretty lightweight. But let's check out the size, of course, because this is actually kind of a big blade. So let's just hold it up to the ruler right here. We can see our sharpened edge is coming in at about 3.5 inches, maybe a little shy of 3.5 inches long. And the overall length is coming in about a little shy of 8.5 inches in overall length. So it's pretty much a full-size everyday carry knife. It's not going to feel too small in your hands. Nice big long handle here. Nice, even though it's a bigger knife, it's still very slim profile though, so that's kind of cool. But in terms of weight, let's go ahead and check out the weight for this 3.5 ounce or 3.5 inch blade. We are weighing in at 2.84 ounces. So again, not a super heavyweight knife by any means. Should be relatively easy to carry, easy to use. And of course, the main draw here is going to be this gorgeous blade. Check out the shape of that tanto. It is an upswept, a lot of belly here, satin finish, and that tanto tip also kind of upswept. Really cool. I haven't seen really any knives with a blade similar to this one, so I don't even know whether to call that an Americanized tanto or a Japanese style one. Maybe more Japanese because it's more curved, but you tell me down in the comments what you think. But just a gorgeous blade overall. It looks really, really good. And again, that's one of the draws here with this particular design. So this is a D2 steel blade. So for the price point, it's kind of, to be expected. This one is available for about $65. And I've seen it for as high as $100. So I wouldn't spend that much unless they change out the blade steel or something on this knife. So about $65. I picked this one up, I believe, from Knife Center. And they have it at that price. So very, very good value, in my opinion, for what you're getting at that price. And I do like to see CRKT bringing out really cool new designs. The ones that are successful, which hopefully this one will be, maybe if we're lucky we'll get some limited runs of higher end blade steels, things like that. That's always cool to check out and see. But we just have the CRKT logo on this side of the blade. And then of course the maker's name and the model number on this side. As you can see there, this is the 5930. We can also do some quick size comparisons to some other knives we have on the table. So this is a 3.5 inch blade, so keep that in mind. It's going to be a little bigger than some of these other knives. So what we also have is the Kershaw Blur, so the full aluminum handles, big guy here, but you can check those out side by side. We also have a Benchmade bug out. So bug out right here, very lightweight, a little bit smaller, but you can check that out for size comparison's sake. And one more that I do have on the table right here, we have the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So Paramilitary 2, let's put that right next to the Ancestor. It's probably the closest in overall length and size that we have here on the table, but again, very different style of knife. So we get to see a bunch of different comparisons here. Put them like that as well. But there's just something super sexy about the blade on the Ancestor, just that upswept tanto tip. Shouldn't be too hard to sharpen either because it's not really a super deep belly. You know, if you're depending on what sharpening system you're using, you should have no problem getting an edge on this knife. And being a D2 steel blade shouldn't be super difficult to work with either. So that's really nice. I would like to see other blade steels. I know that, you know, they tend to sometimes work with D2 quite a bit. I wouldn't mind see something like a 14C 28N, like a Sandvik steel on this type of knife would be nice. I'd love to see something a little bit higher end, of course, but that costs more money. So people, you know, want something at the budget end, and this is what we typically get. So this right here just really, really feels good in hand. The jimping along the spine, it's not super deep like I was saying, but it is functional. So there is that. And in hand, you don't feel any hot spot from the pocket clip. So that's always good to have too. But in terms of sharpness out of the box, I'm sure it's quite sharp. Let me grab a sheet of paper. So let's check out the sharpness. Yeah, no issues with sharpness out of the box, and nor should there be because of course it's a brand new knife. So very nice. No wiggle in the blade, up and down, side to side. Even in the open position, there's no pivot lash. Very solid feeling up and down. And for a manual opener, that's really exactly what you want. So just as you close the knife, just be super careful not to close it on your finger. So as you can see right here, as the blade drops, it does want to hit your thumbnail. So if you have a decent thumbnail, you shouldn't have a problem, but just keep that in mind as you are playing with the blade. As you open and close it, do not catch your fingers under that tanto blade. So really just wanted to share my first thoughts and opinions on the CRKT Ancestor. So if you have any comments, I would love to hear what you think about this knife below. Hope you all have a knife day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.